Hey everybody, Leo Babauta from Zen Habits here, and today we are going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, debt. So, how do we get out of debt? In this video, I'm going to give you my 8 best methods, best techniques, 8 proven strategies for getting out of debt. Now, you can come up with 100 if you want to, but these are the 8 that I've found to be most important. There's some overlap in these 8, so it's hard to, distinctly put them into 8 things. But these are 8 that I found to be important. Well, let me talk about my background. Let me talk about debt in general and why you'd want to get out of it. And then let's talk about those 8 things. So first of all, my background. When I first started Zen Habits in 2007, I was already on the way to getting out of debt. My wife and I had gotten into a lot of debt, and we were on a journey of paying those debts off, getting ourselves into a healthier financial position. We were already more than a year into it at that point. And so I was able to write about it in the early days of what was working for me, what approach I was taking, and how to simplify my life so that I could actually um, get out of debt. And by the end of that year, 2007, I finished paying off the debt. So that was my old financial life. And then I just stayed out of debt for the longest time until, um, more recently, I think it was a few years ago, I got into debt again. And this was because of some, financial mistakes, some not paying attention. And so, it was something that I could have prevented and I was embarrassed about, but then I'm like, you know what? I've done it before, I can do it again. And so I got out of debt again. And to this day I'm debt free. So it isn't like you can solve it once and then it never comes back, but um, I was able to stay out of debt for a really long time until I stumbled back into it, usually mostly because of carelessness. But then I also had the same tools to pull myself back out again. And that's really great because I knew how to do it and I had the confidence in myself. I had the skills to be able to do it. So that's my background. I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just someone who knows about this because I've done it a lot and I've helped others do it as well. So that's my background. Let's talk about, debt in general and like why we should care about it. So first of all, debt is, it's a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people have gotten themselves into debt, usually because of bad financial habits, carelessness, not knowing how to deal with this stuff, just, lack of basic financial education, which is, including me. I didn't have good basic financial education. My parents got into debt when I was younger, and so I always thought debt was this terrible thing, but then I didn't have the tools to stop myself from doing it. And I think that's actually the case for a lot of people. Now, there are a few lucky people who, their parents or schools or someone has drilled into them some financial habits. Most of us have to stumble onto good financial habits by getting into bad ones first and learning how to change them. So that's just the case. But for a lot of people, they live paycheck to paycheck, really struggling to make ends meet because they have all of this debt that's hanging over them. For some people, it's student debt. If they went to college, they might have tens of thousands of dollars, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from student loans. For others, it's credit card debt. House debt, is one thing, but I don't really consider like if you have a mortgage that you're paying off regularly, I don't really consider that debt. So let's not think about the mortgage debt as debt, except that it is, and it's one of the debt payments that you're making among possibly many. So it's one thing, but if that's the only debt that you have, that and maybe a car loan, and you're able to pay those off regularly, and it's not such a big deal, it's just like a bill, then that's fine. But if you have those debts plus student loans plus maybe some credit cards to pay off and other personal loans that you've had, and they are amongst many debts that you have, then those are ones to consider. I actually think if you can avoid getting having a car loan, then you should avoid it. Something my grandparents taught me when I was younger. This is actually one positive financial education that I gotten from them. They said, try not to buy your car on a loan. What they did was they bought their first car with a loan, and then they paid it off. And when they were done, they didn't take out another loan. What they did was kept driving that same car, but then taking the money that they were putting towards their car loan and putting that in a savings account until they had enough to buy their next car on cash. And then they just kept on with the same habit. And I thought that was so brilliant. And I wish I actually did do that for a little while, but I wish I had really listened to them and internalized that, because I got out of that habit. Um, and it's just so tempting to not do that. But if you just take the same amount from your paycheck and put it in a savings account where you are saving up for your next car, then you will never have to buy cars. You don't have to have a car loan anymore. And what you're going to do is you're going to save yourself tens of thousands of dollars in interest from auto loans. Auto loans aren't just the amount of the car. You're actually buying the car at, probably a 50% markup. You're paying 50% more for that car, maybe more. Depends on the car loan and the price of the car, but you might be paying anywhere from 30 to 70% more than the car actually is worth because you're paying interest. And so this is a problem. Whatever we're buying, if we're buying it using debt with interest, we're actually paying way more. We're throwing our hard-earned money. If you're going to work and earning a paycheck, you're spending a lot of hours to earn money to pay for the interest for the loans or credit cards that you're using. So we're just pouring money down the drain. Might as well just flush that money down the drain. So this is why it matters. And so for one part, we're wasting money, and for the other, we're just having a hard time making ends meet, paycheck to paycheck. This is how I lived, was really struggling to to pay off my bills, to have food on the table before I got my next paycheck. It's a hard way to live, and I know a lot of people understand that. So what do we do about it? So as I record this video, I'm assuming you are in debt and you'd like to get out of it. So what are the 8 proven ways? The first thing is to stop the bleeding. If you are wounded, if you have an open wound, you're not going to try and get into good shape, work out while you've got an open wound. Stop the bleeding. We're going to heal that wound before we do a workout. We want to actually stop the bleeding. And so the way we do that is to stop the impulse spending habit. And what we're talking about here in this video are habits, financial habits that we have not learned and that I'm encouraging you to do. So you might have an old habit of impulse spending. This is for anyone who goes on Amazon and orders a lot. Cancel your Prime membership. That's what I've done. I don't buy on Amazon anymore. Amazon makes it so easy to indulge in the impulse spending habit. You want something? Boom, there, it'll be here tomorrow. Maybe later today, so it's just so easy to get whatever you need by just going on Amazon and clicking order, and it'll be here soon. If you've got Amazon, boxes piled up every, recycling day, that's an impulse spending habit. If you have to go find it in other websites and there's more friction, it's going to make you think twice before you buy something. This isn't just for those who buy on Amazon, though. There are people who buy, go to their favorite shopping sites. If people buy on TikTok. I've seen my kids order things. I'm like, where'd you get that? They're like, TikTok. I'm like, whoa, there's shopping on TikTok. There's shopping. There's, really super cheap impulse buy websites and apps. So cut all of that out. What you want to do is put yourself on a moratorium. Don't buy anything that isn't absolutely necessary to live on. Of course, you need toilet paper and food, right? Toothpaste and, that kind of stuff. Soap. But you don't need new clothes. You probably have way too many clothes already. You don't need new shoes. You don't need new toys, whatever it is that you do for your hobbies. You don't need new books. You probably have way too many books. So whatever it is you have a lot of already, stop buying those. Stop the impulse spending habit. This is going to stop the bleeding. You're going to stop spending so much, and then you can use that money that you were spending on that to start paying off your debt. So whatever you're now spending on impulse buys, you're going to take that money and start paying off your debt. And that could be $100 a month. It could be $500. It could be $1,000 a month for some people. So whatever that is, that amount is, you might look over your credit card history, look at your Amazon shopping thing, and look at whatever wasn't 100%. And did you need a new, crock pot? No, you didn't. So put that on your list and look at how much are you spending every month on Amazon, all of these like shopping sites and apps. Like, how much have you been spending? Take that amount and put it towards paying off your debt. Okay, eating out is another one. Stop eating out. You don't have money to eat out if you are in debt. If you are in debt, one of my favorite financial bloggers, his name is Mr. Money Mustache. Go check him out. He'll help you get out of debt. But Mr. Money Mustache says that your debt, treat it like an emergency. Treat it like you are covered in bees, right? Until you're out of debt, it is an emergency. What that means is stop eating out. Now, does that mean you should never, ever, ever, ever eat out? No, you can eat out, maybe make it once every month or two. But for the most part, if you're eating out 3, 5 times a week, stop that. It is way cheaper to cook your own food. Buy actual food, not packaged food for the most part. Actual food like vegetables and meats, or vegan, like I do, vegan protein. Throw those together, make a grain like rice or something like that, and have a home cooked meal. Cook something that will last you a few days. It's convenient. Cooking takes a little bit of work, but it's convenient because you cooked something that's going to last you for several days, and you don't have to go anywhere. There's no packaging waste. There's no DoorDash, driver driving back and forth and wasting gas. You are saving the environment, you're saving your money, you're saving your time, and you're going to save your health as well. So whatever you're spending on eating out, take that money and use it to buy some real food, and then use it to pay off your debt. So stop the bleeding is number one. Stop the impulse spending habit. Put that on a moratorium until you are out of debt, which could be months or years from now. But you will save so much. You're going to stop the bleeding. Second is start to reduce some of your other expenses, not the impulse buy, eating out, shopping online, but other expenses. If you have regular recurring charges that are coming out of your bank account or credit card, they're like monthly subscriptions, all of that kind of stuff, just cancel them. Go onto the website and cancel them. Now, of course, if you're having your power and water bill like withdrawn from your bank account, of course, keep paying that. But other than that, other than the necessities, what are some of the recurring charges that you see on your credit card statement, in your bank account, that you can just cancel? So these are easy expenses. So, other than the impulse, online and shopping, and eating, what other things? Do you have subscriptions to things? Start cutting those out. Whatever you're spending on those, add those to the money you're going to be using to pay off your debt. That's number two. Reduce the easy expenses that are on your subscriptions and other things that you're spending on. If you're like going to get a monthly, I don't know, massage, stop that for a little while. Or, mani-pedi. Stop all of the spending. That's not a necessity. The third thing is to start to reduce the harder expenses. Now, what are the harder expenses? These are ones that you can't just go on a website and press cancel. You have to actually make a big change that's going to reduce it. And for a lot of people, the biggest expenses they have are their house and their car. Now, can you reduce your house? Yes, most likely yes. If you are paying rent and you're paying X number of dollars, there's a decent chance you can move to a smaller place or a more affordable neighborhood and reduce your expenses by hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars for some people. But definitely hundreds of dollars. You could save, let's imagine you can move and save, $800 a month in a more modest place, maybe in a less expensive neighborhood, or maybe even a whole nother city. Find a cheaper city and move. Now, of course, that's not something you can do this week or even next month, but you can do that over the next year. You can move to another place and reduce the amount that you're spending per month. This is your biggest expense. Now, if you have a mortgage, you can sell your house and buy another house, or that's cheaper. This then take the money that you saved. Maybe you actually made some money. Pay off some of your mortgage, or pay off some other debt that has higher interest. But maybe you don't make any money. Even if you don't make any money on the transactions, maybe you lose a little bit. But over time, monthly, your mortgage amount is going to be lower. And so we want to look at that as our number three thing, is harder expenses like a house, and then a car would be another one. So if you have a car loan with, a high, let's say it's like $800 for some people, $500, sell that car and go and buy a used car that's cheaper. A used car that's cheaper. Now, not one that's like going to cost you a lot in repair bills. So, something that maybe 5 years old, 5 to 7, 8 years old, that's in decent shape, that's been maintained, but that's going to save you a lot of money. You could save hundreds of dollars every month by buying a cheaper car. For some people, depending on where you live, you might actually be able to get by without a car. If you have two cars, get by with just one. If you have one car, can you get by with none? If you can ride a bike, do it. Sell your car, ride a bike for a year, and then buy a cheap used car later. So, or walk or use mass transit. So that's number three, is start to reduce the harder expenses. That takes a little bit of time, but that would be number three. Number four, immediately, and I mean like this week, start an emergency fund. So what that means is a savings account where you put some money aside. So open a separate savings account if you don't already have one, and start to put money in there. Now, when I say this week, maybe you put $20 in there. That's a start. Maybe you have $50 to put in there. Great. $100. Maybe you have more. Maybe you have a few $100s you can put in there. Great. But what I want you to do is to start it this week. Start putting whatever you can put in there, and then start putting every paycheck at least a little bit in there. And what you want to do is slowly build that up. When I started it back in 2005 or six, or when we started it, I tried. My first goal was hit $100 in my emergency fund, and then I was like, let's shoot for 500, and then 1,000. Not a lot of money, but it makes such a huge difference. If you have $500 or $1,000 in an emergency fund, then if your car broke down and you're like, I need to spend $200 to fix my car, if you don't have any savings, where is that going to come from? It goes on your credit card, or you just don't pay for something because you need to pay for your transportation. So reduce some expenses and start to put that money into an emergency fund. It will smooth over your finances by leaps and bounds. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck with no savings at all. And what I'd like you to do is to slowly increase that over time, and slowly, go over 1,000, go to 5,000. If you can get 5,000 in savings, your financial health will go way up. Okay, that's number four. Number five is to start paying off those debts. Make a list of all of your debts. Make a list of how much you owe for each one. This is going to take you a few days. And then make a list of how much you have to pay every single month. For some of them, maybe you aren't paying them at all, but other ones, they have a minimum payment, or or a monthly payment. Like a car loan would have, let's say it's $400 every month for your car loan. And then for these other ones, you have a minimum payment of, let's say, $50 or $100 every single month. So make a list of what are your monthly payments, what's the total amount owed, and your monthly payments. I also would recommend a fourth column. So you can do a spreadsheet or just put it on a piece of paper. A fourth column with your interest rates. What's the interest rate? And what you want to do is look at those ones with high interest rates. You want to get rid of those. If you had, if you have one that has a 22% interest rate, pay that off so that you're not paying that interest anymore. It's a lot of money. But for other ones, maybe the interest rate is 6%. Great. Those are the ones that you can live with for a little while. But pay off the ones with high interest rate. Okay, so make this list and then start to target them one at a time. So pay off the minimum for all of them. But then see if you can take some extra from that you've been saving from your impulse spending and eating out and easy expenses, and maybe you were able to get a cheaper car. Start taking that extra money and start paying off some of the debts. So target one debt at a time. Pay off the minimum on all of them, and then take some extra money and start paying it off towards one of the debts until you can pay it off. For me, I started with my smallest debts. I had one medical debt that was like $70. I paid that off in a month. I had another medical debt that was like $250. I paid that off in a few months. And then I took all the money I was paying towards those and I started paying off to the third debt that I had on my list. And so you can order this however you want to. For some people, it helps to have the smallest ones at the top. So I'm going to start to pay off the small ones. Like I said, $50, $250, $180. These smaller ones, pay them off first. That helps because you can pay them off in a month or two or three, and it feels really good to get those off of the list. For others, you might consider paying off the highest interest rates first. The thing to look up for this method, it's called the debt snowball method. Dave Ramsey was the guy who originated it. There's different ways to tackle it. Smallest debts first to the biggest debts, or ordered by interest rate. I think it doesn't really matter. As long as you're targeting one debt at a time, paying off the minimum interest rates, but then targeting one debt at a time, pouring all the extra money you have towards one, pay that one off in X number of months, then take all that money and pay it to the next debt on the list. And over and over and over, and you start knocking these debts off. Some of them are going to take a while, but you're getting some extra money. So debt snowball, pay off your debt. The sixth one is to lower your interest rates if possible. There are some companies you can call up and say, hey, I don't have the money to pay this off. Can you lower my interest rates? Can you pause this debt for a little while? Give me a little bit of debt relief. Call them up and see. The worst thing that you can do is to ask. Sometimes they'll be like, sure, we'll pause this for a little bit because you can't pay it, and then we'll resume it in 6 months. For others, you can say like, I would like to make a payment plan because I can't pay this amount every month. So can we come up with a payment plan that I can actually afford? Some companies are able to work with you. If you're not able to do that, you can do some kind of debt consolidation. So there's credit cards where you can transfer it over at zero interest for a year. So take some of your high interest credit cards, transfer it over to a 0% interest for a year, and aim to pay that off in a year so that you pay zero interest on that new credit card, pay off the old one, close the old one, and don't use it anymore, and then pay off the new 0% interest credit card in a year. And so really aim to pay that off. There are debt consolidation loans where the interest rates will be smaller than whatever else you're paying off. So you can look into that as well. Another idea, this is something that I actually recommend, you might have a family member or a friend who can loan you some money at 0% interest. Now, it's not always recommended to borrow money from family or friends, but sometimes that can really help. And if you have someone who's got like a ton of money, ask them, I asked my grandparents when I first was getting out of debt for some money, and they were a little bit hesitant, but they trusted me, and I paid them off every single paycheck until it was paid off, and they did it at 0% interest. And so this really helped give me some breathing room. So lower your interest rates or consolidate your debt is number six, but this is really meant to um, give you a little bit of breathing room and to make things easier for you. Number seven, start the habit of working with a budget. I recommend the envelope budget system. So this would be like, here's the money I have for gas, here's the money I have for power, here's the money I have for groceries, here's the money I have for rent. Put it into different envelopes. So if you had an envelope, put the cash in there. Then when the envelope was empty, you're done. And if you need to transfer money from one envelope to the other, then that's great. And when I first started, I literally used envelopes. We would withdraw money from the bank, except for ones that I would do automatic payments from my bank account. But for anything else, like gas or groceries, we would withdraw actual cash and put them into envelopes. And then we knew exactly how much was in there. We knew how much we had to spend. And if that was empty, we were out. We couldn't spend money if it wasn't there. Now, if we had to transfer money from, gas to groceries, we did, but it was really clear how much money there was to spend. Now, if you don't want to do it the physical way, there's ways to do that with a spreadsheet, or you can use this software called You Need a Budget. Now, I'm not an affiliate. This is not an ad for them, but I use a thing called You Need a Budget. It's YNAB is what I call it. You Need a Budget. Now, it took me a little while to learn that software system, but that's basically the idea, is that you take all of the money in your account and you start putting it into these envelopes. And when you spend something, you take it from that envelope and you spend it. It's digital envelopes, but it works. And so I would start the habit of working with some kind of budget system. I like the envelope system, or YNAB, and You Need a Budget. But you create a habit of working with it, so you know how much money you have, and so you're actually allocating money and spending from those allocations. This is how you actually manage your money. Number eight, make some extra money. Now, this is not easy for a lot of people, but if you can get a part-time extra job, if you can, do some work on, freelance work online, if you can, whatever you can do, and drive Uber, go out and make some extra money. Now, that's not always possible for everybody, but if you have any extra time, try and use it to make some extra money. There's different ways to do it. There's online, businesses, that kind of stuff. You can sell things door to door, whatever you need to do. Do a little bit of a side hustle, and it will help you to pay off your debt faster. Maybe you go out and look for a job that has higher hourly wage. Make some extra money if you can. This is it's not possible for everybody. It's not easy, but that's something that I would really recommend. It's something that I did as I started freelance writing so that I could help pay off the debt faster. A bonus one, number 9, is to celebrate progress. When you are paying it off, it can feel like a lot of sacrifice. What me and my family did was we would treat ourselves to going to the movies, or there was like a water park that our kids really loved doing. We would put some money towards a fun, like basically fun envelope. And when we would pay off a debt or make some kind of progress that felt worthy of celebrating, we would take the money from that fun money envelope and we would go to the movies, we would go to a water park, we would do something fun, and we would celebrate together. And that really made it less of a deprivation. Another bonus tip, we'll call this number 10, is learn to live a simple life of contentment. You don't need to spend money to have a good life. Live a life of simplicity. This is something that I really embraced when I first started, and I still do. You don't need to spend money. You can read free books from the library. You can go to the park and have a nice time, play some sports. You can go for a walk and enjoy the outdoors. You can you know, hang out with friends or family. You can, enjoy the free resources of your town. Go for a bike ride. Um, you know, just enjoy each other's company. Get involved in some crafts that cost very little. Um, join some community activities. You don't have to spend money to enjoy life. So live a simple life. Stop spending money if you can, and get out of that debt. Free yourself. Okay, that's what I've got for you. I am Leo Babauta of Zen Habits. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like more content like this. Give this video a thumbs up to help others find it. Share it with someone who could use this video or some Zen habits in their lives. Thanks, my friends. I'll talk to you later.